It's Song Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Song Talk Radio, the somewhat loud podcast where we get together and we talk about the things that make us all better songwriters. My name is Phil Emery, and with me, as always, are the very dedicated members of the Song Talk Radio Action team, Mr. Michael Proudman. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. Had a busy day, accomplished a lot, so I feel good about myself.
That's very good. And here on my right is Neil Modi. Mr. Neil, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Apparently not as good as Mike, but hey, I'll take what I can get.
It's not a competition.
It's true.
Yeah, if you happen to be listening to us on your near computer, you can always send us questions or comments or anything you like to feedback at songtalk.ca, and we'll share your thoughts with the listeners. And if you're if you happen to be watching on the YouTubes, you can subscribe and press the like button because it makes a big deal and everyone's happy and life is good. And of course, right now I'm very excited. I've gotten all my stuff. All the stuff was delivered to our home on Monday, so now we have washing boxes, but now I have things again, so life is good. So
I can see some boxes behind you, I think. Look out, Phil, they're behind you.
So that's finally a huge part of my mental load is now taken off that I got my stuff. So for those of you wondering out there in Radio Land, that's where I am right now. And so I think we were talking about the our latest challenge. Michael, what's happening with our challenge?
Well, we are having submissions coming in, which is great. Of course, it puts pressure on we three to come up with ours first. So we have a song every year. We do our Song Talk song challenge, where there is a set of guidelines given out that you follow to help you write a song, and sometimes to push you into unfamiliar territory. And this year, the unfamiliar territory was you have to use this title in your song. Why Do You Cry? And aside from that, you can do anything. I suppose you could even do an instrumental, but that would make it real easy. So you have to incorporate Why Do You Cry as the title of your song and write a song. And then please send it in to us, and we will play a lot of them on subsequent shows. But first, we will be featuring how we three responded to this challenge. And how goes it so far, gentlemen? Phil, have you been able to do anything yet without any stuff?
Not as of yet, but I'm hoping this weekend to start to get on top of it. And
excellent.
So, yes.
Well, good luck with that. And Neil, you're probably quite far down the road with it now, huh?
Yeah, I'm in pretty good shape. But first, I want to mention at the meetup, the song talk meetup we had.
Oh, how was that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And I called on the next person to present their song, and he was taking a minute to set up. And so in the meantime, I talked about the songwriting challenge and introduced it to everyone who didn't know about it, and told people to check out the website and submit their song if they chose to. And then when this next person got his keyboard set up, he decided to improv instrumental piano piece called "Why Do You Cry?" and just made it up on the fly, and it was beautiful. Actually, it was this lovely poppy kind of melody thing that he did. It was like 2.5 minutes long, and it was like, "Why do you cry?"
It was just instrumental, yes? He didn't improvise lyrics as well.
Yeah,
that's still pretty good. Yeah, I think he's a return participant because I recall one time I was hosting recently that someone on piano was improvising a song. It was quite good.
Okay, it must have been the same fellow. I do forget his name. My apologies. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, for myself, I haven't actually made any progress on it in the last couple of weeks. But I did change one chord. Yeah, I did change a chord the other day.
I came to realize that perhaps I'm using an odd time signature, so that's completely thrown me because I've never written anything that isn't in 4/4. So I don't know. Do I go with that or do I change it up? It's, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I always wind up doing 4/4 too. Maybe I should try doing like a 6/8 or something.
Well, I'm in a 5/4, which I just can't handle. So I might try 6/4 if I can just hang on it for a bit. But it's just the verse, and then I think the chorus goes back to 4/4. So it's really it's okay unless you're trying to program the drums to it.
Well, that's true. That's
yeah, it's a little different. But my song actually has some 6/4 bars in the verse and in the chorus. In fact, I think it's a little bit. It's not quite random, but it's like 4/4.
Perhaps as a drummer, it's a little less daunting for you, but it's just freaking me the hell out.
Well, I mean, get a whole bloody EP of songs with odd time signatures, so it's nothing the ordinary.
Yeah, exactly.
To be honest, it just felt right, and it doesn't feel awkward in my song, I don't think.
And we're very pleased to report that people have already started sending in their songs.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So
which is, I think, the first time, and I find it a little daunting also because now, doing it in a vacuum before, here's my song, and I haven't heard anyone else's, and now I'm starting to hear all these other ones. I go, oh, okay, I gotta step up my game.
Still do your thing.
Yeah, it's true. So, anyways, don't forget you can send your songs to feedback@songtalk.ca. Send us an MP3 file or a link to a SoundCloud, something like that. So it would work just fine.
Yeah, and send us a lyric and chord sheet if you can, and send us a little one paragraph on your songwriting process. It'd be nice to.
And also a bit about yourself. A little biographical information would be nice.
Where you hail from, because as we did last year, we'll have at least 2 episodes more likely where we feature our listener songs. So you guys submit your songs. There is an end journey to that where we do showcase your songs on the podcast. So it's nice to have a little background info on you and stuff like that. So.
And the best songs, if you're on you can get a free copy of our show. Oh wait, it's already free.
We'll do it as an NFT.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll gift them an NFT. It's priceless,
Perfect.
All right. Let's
absolutely
get on to
no
it.
value.
All right. Well, actually, today's show is going to actually have a lot of value, and it's something I've always wanted to talk about. Today, we are going to talk about something that every musician, regardless of his experience, has wondered about. How do I get my name out there? And today our guest is going to answer that for us. And they are from a company called Bad Parade. And Bad Parade is a music publicity firm focused on bringing music talent to every corner of Canada. Created by Canadian publicist Kari Zalik, Bad Parade works to secure key media coverage for Canadian and international artists, working with broadcasts, so television, radio, podcasts, print and digital outlets for maximum exposure. Her artists have appeared in top media, including the Globe and Mail, National Post, CBC, Q, Exclaim, Indie 88, and Now Magazine, and many more. By the way, that's how you have to say Exclaim. Is Exclaim! Kari began her career at Maple Leaf Music Recordings here in Toronto and progressed to artist publicity management roles in Canada. She has launched albums, promoted tours, and everything in between, always ensuring top visibility for all her clients. And her clients have included Steve Earle, Alex Cuba, Sharon Jones, Charles Bradley, Jocelyn Ellis, and J.D. McPherson, and many, many more. Kari, where are you?
And now, ladies and gentlemen.
Kari.
Sorry. Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, lots of people have thrown around the word publicist. So what exactly is a publicist, and what do you do for people?
Great question. So we're often actually confused with publishers for people who aren't totally familiar with the difference between the two. Publicists are the middle people who will take music or anything related to music, and actually anything in general. There's publicists for products and film and TV, and package it in a way where it's delivered to the media so that they can send it out to their listeners, viewers, followers, whoeverers, so that people can become aware through mass media of what the artist or the company or whoever it is doing.
Mm. Yeah, and when you say media, I mean, for us at Song Talk Radio, we've received communications from you and from other publicists, and that's how we get some of our guests on the show. So, you know, we're in that loop as well.
That's right. That's right. So people like you guys, anyone who works for me specifically with Bad Parade, anyone who works within Canadian media, it can be podcasts, it can be radio, television, print media, whether it's newspapers or magazines, blogs, online magazines, things like that. We're the people who take whatever it is, whether it's, you know, a new single or a video or a tour, an album, and deliver it out so that more people can hear about it.
Sounds good. How did you get into this publicist racket?
I always knew I wanted to be in music, and I decided, okay, I'm not in music now. How am I going to do this? I started to very gently harass everybody that I possibly could within the Toronto music scene. And they were all really lovely and met with me. And I went to coffees and walked people's dogs with them and picked up their dry cleaning and, you know, went to some cool label offices and did all that stuff. And finally, I met this wonderful, wonderful person at Maple Music Recordings. He was the general manager at the time. He sat me down and we talked, and he said, all right, well, I'm going to give you a chance. What do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. And he said, what are you good at? And I said, schmoozing. So he said, great, we're connecting you to our publicist and you're going to, you know, intern there. And so I started out as an intern at Maple Music Recordings under one of what I think, or who I think is one of the best publicists in Canada, and really got my foot in the door that way. Just kind of, you know, banged on the door to get in.
So what makes a good publicist?
That is a great question. There's a variety of things. And I think the first one is having that person be a fan of what they're working with. It could be a product, it could be music, it could be a television show. But the number one thing that's going to make a good publicist for each person is that they have a fan in the person that is working for them. So that's number one. You want someone who's excited about what they're working on. You want a good communicator. You want someone who communicates clearly, who can understand what you're doing. If you have a painting and you say, you know, when I created it, here's what I blah, 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 blah. I wanted this in it, and that in it, and here's what I want people to see. And the publicist says, oh, I just see a bunch of colors on a canvas. You don't have someone who's going to represent you properly. So you really want to have someone who understands your music, understands sort of the meaning behind it. We dive in and really get the full story of the artist and the song or the album, whatever we're working on. And as you guys have seen in some of our pitches, we really dive into what that song is or what that album's about and things like that. So I would say when it comes to what makes the best publicist, you want someone who's going to be your cheerleader, who's a great communicator, who takes the time to understand what they're working with.
Lots of people are interested in hiring a publicist. Where should they be within their career, and what kinds of things should they think about before they even approach someone in your line of work?
That's a great question. So the reality is that anyone can use a publicist. You just have to be ready for what they're going to do. So whether it's your first or second single, or you've been in the industry for 10 years, everybody would benefit from having their music delivered out to media and then spread further through that. So it's kind of up to the artist. Do they feel ready to do that? Are they ready to do interviews? Can they afford to bring on a publicist and have someone on their team like that? But the common denominator is that no matter where you're at in your career, having help to push your music out there and get it into more ears and in front of more eyes is going to benefit you.
Is it a thing with maybe with the more with established artists? Do they tend to stick with one publicist for a really long term, or do they actually change it up and try different publicists over the course of a career?
Both, really. We see a lot of both. Some artists will publicist jump and say, okay, well, here's the experience I had with Kari. I'm going to go try somebody else. And some will say, we have a good thing going on and I'm going to stick with you. I think just in general in life, sometimes we think the grass is always greener or can be greener. And sometimes you want to explore that grass. I'll say I'm very lucky to have a bunch of returning clients, which I love. I love being able to watch them grow and that sort of continuity of their music and seeing them develop as artists. But it's actually a really good mixture. And also something to consider is that depending on who you're working with and where you're at in your career, you might have a label publicist or you might have, someone assigned to you and you're not really making that choice. But I would say it's 50-50.
How long does it
when
take?
You're working, sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Go on, Michael, I insist.
When you take on an artist or work with the artist, what is it that you need from them?
Great question. So when we decide to work with a client, we send them our asset list, which is one of the most important things they're going to get delivered from us. And we tell them exactly all of the things that we need in order to run a successful campaign. So just as a very brief example, we're going to ask for their bio if they have one. We're going to ask for photos that come with photography credit. We want to know who took those photos. We need the MP3. We need the WAV file. We want to know if you've been reviewed before or picked up in different types of media. And when, was it 15 years ago and that magazine doesn't exist anymore? Or was it 3 weeks ago in Exclaim, which is, hopefully I'm saying that right. So, that's something else that we always want to follow up if we know that a journalist has covered the client. We're going to ask for a quote. I want to know directly from you in 3 to 5 sentences what the song means. What does it mean to you? What do you want people to get out of it? So we're going to ask you for a bunch of things. It's all very clearly laid out. But we also, once we have everything and sort of rummage through our files that the clients give us, we book what we call a start date call to go over everything. And that is at the very beginning of our campaign. We actually call that harassment week, where we're just going back and forth a lot with the client. But we need these assets. We obviously have to deliver them to people like you so you can hear the song that we're pitching or watch the video that we're pitching. And then we do the call to dive in much deeper and be able to create that story. So there's a lot of stuff that you're going to want to have ready if you do want to work with a publicist. The publicist will tell you exactly what they need and bombard you with emails until they get it. So I would say that's kind of a sampling, but all the main things really are there.
The artist either doesn't have a bio or doesn't know how to write their own bio. Do you provide, or can you even now provide a couple of tips for an artist writing their bio?
Absolutely. So I'll say, and I hate this, so many people come to me saying, Kari, I hate my bio, Can you write one for me? And we offer bio writing, but the reality is their bios aren't bad. So for anyone thinking that they have a lousy bio and that you need professional help, what I would say is write down the things that you think it's missing. What is the problem with it? Why are you unhappy? And for the most part, unless you're a terrible writer, and I mean, we're typically working with songwriters who can write. So, unless you're a terrible writer, maybe you'll need help, but add those things in. Watch for the flow of it, right? Flow as in, start from the beginning of your career, or maybe put the huge highlights at the top and go down from there. Let us know what we can expect. Jane Doe will be releasing her sophomore album in March of 2022. But really, you should go back to the drawing board before you pay for someone. And I hate saying that because it's a service we offer. But the reality is that for the most part, bios aren't that bad. It really is just a written resume of some of the great things that you've done and who you are as an artist. So don't stress about your bio. It's not that big of a deal. Include the big things. And if you really need professional help, then you can certainly seek it. And most publicists in Canada and anywhere will be able to write a bio for you. But don't stress. And it's probably not as bad as you think.
Is there something that you've noticed that individual songwriters or people who are trying to do this for themselves, the mistakes that they keep on making that make you want to pull your hair out? Going, why are you doing this?
Yes. How long do we have? Because I can take you through absolutely everything. Look, we are in a time just in general where we can DIY so many things on our own, right? People can make their own furniture or whatever it is. And so a lot of artists want to do that. And it's something that I totally support and encourage when, if you don't have the means to bring on a publicist or you don't feel ready, definitely give it a go on your own. But with that comes this whole slew of mistakes that people continuously make. We give out tips actually on our social pages and in our newsletters to show artists don't do these things. Guys, it's not going to work. And so we have some, common mistakes. One of them, which drives me up the wall, is attachments. If you attach a Word document of a bio and the actual song MP3 and photos to an email, they're going to end up in a spam folder because you're going to be sending that out to more than, one or two people. So the number one thing I would say to people who are pitching their own music is provide links. Get everything in a Google Drive or a Dropbox folder and send out the link. That's what we do to you guys. We actively, everything I'm saying is true. You can see it in our pitches. Do not send attachments because spam filters are going to grab them. And then no one's going to see your music. So definitely don't do that. And I know that we live in a time where things are much more casual by email. But if you can avoid saying, hey, and hey there, and anything, yo man, whatever, you've got to show that you've done a little bit of research. So you don't just want to say, hey, I'm going on tour, check out my new song, and maybe you want to come to the show. You want to research the place that you're going to reach out to and say, hi, John. Hi, Jane. We are a small indie rock band from Calgary, Alberta, and we have a new song and we think you'd love it. Show that you've done a little bit of research because you're going to be that much more likely to get a response and coverage from the outlet.
Yes.
Any other tips of things not to do? Maybe we can have a top 5, maybe.
Oh, a top 5. Okay. Don't harass. Do not, if you've written to exclaim 20 times and they haven't written back, you're going to want to pull back at some point and say, okay, next single I'm going to deliver to them. Remember, I know it feels very, very personal. It's your music, it's your blood, sweat, and tears, and you put your all into it, and it means the world to you. But half the time, and I would actually say more than half the time, the reason that you're not getting that coverage or added to that playlist or booked on TV isn't because your song is bad. It's because it either didn't make it to the desk of the journalist or whoever it is, or they just don't have the space at that time, So I know how it feels. And I know that it can be frustrating, but don't harass, because what's going to happen is if you keep sending emails, they're not even going to consider you for the next single or the next album or video or whatever it is. So you really want to be polite and gentle and, know when to sort of cut your losses. The max I would say is about 3 or 4 times. You really want to stop annoying people at some point. Some of the other things I would say are, when you have a release, you certainly want to be putting it up across social media platforms. So a common mistake that we see is, artist A is a big Twitter user, which is fabulous. Great. Put out your release on Twitter. But the reality is that there are other major social platforms that people use. And just because Twitter is your preferred one doesn't mean that for, whatever publication it is, that they're mainly seeing people on Instagram or they're mainly looking on Facebook. So a common mistake is only utilizing one of the social media platforms. What I would suggest is you don't need to be incredibly active. You don't have to post 4 times a week or 3 times a week or even twice a week. If you post and when you post, just be consistent across platforms, because there are people who are more likely to catch you on Twitter, more likely to catch you on Instagram, Facebook, and so on and so forth. So make sure that you're not just hitting one and expecting, sort of a slew of social media and attention and likes and all of that. Get it across platforms. You really want to spread whatever it is far and wide. And are we doing 5? Was that 4?
One more.
You got one more?
Yeah.
I would say do not make music just for TikTok or an algorithm. I see a lot now of people trying to make music for TikTok that'll go viral, or music that they think the Spotify algorithm is going to pick up. The music that will land is music that is genuine. So stop worrying about what you see going on out there. The best songs in the world are the ones that you really, really mean and aren't created for the intent of, I think this Spotify editor is going to love that and put me on New Music Friday. You really want to make the music that you want to make. Don't let that into your head as you're creating your art.
That's great.
Very useful.
If someone is out there thinking, gee, being a publicist sounds like it's a really cool job, and they wanted to find out more about how to become a publicist, how would they do that?
There's a variety of ways. So you can go to school for it. There are programs at colleges across Canada and across the world in communications that can teach you. Or you can do what I did, which was just harass the entire industry, learn as much as you can, get a great internship, and go from there. I will say a lot of publicists take on interns. So if you are looking to get that experience, there's a great opportunity with publicists to learn from them directly, whether it's in music or elsewhere. So you can certainly consider reaching out to your favorite neighborhood publicist and see if they are accepting interns at that time.
Cool. After you finish running a campaign with an artist, how do you measure the success of that campaign?
That is a great question. So it really depends, which is one of the worst answers. It depends on where the artist is at in their career. Someone who has Grammys and Junos and this and that under their belt isn't going to be happy with one radio spin, let's say, because they're used to so much more. So for the emerging artists, though, getting on, if they're from Toronto and they got on the radio in Halifax, they're going to be like, oh my God, that is so cool. So I would say the way that we gauge it is, first of all, by the sort of stature of that client at that point. Have they ever had a publicist before? Have they ever had a campaign? What kind of music do they make? Unfortunately in Canada, we're somewhat limited in some of the music publications that we have. There's going to be genres that get more attention than others. So that's a factor. I work with artists who are in very niche genres sometimes. And for the pop artist or the indie folk artist, whatever they get is going to be 10 times more than what the other genre could get in Canada. So it really depends. I always sit down when we have potential clients and sort of do kind of mapping. Where do I think I can put them? Where can we sneak them into? Because if they don't totally fit, we're still going to try and put them into that publication and send them out. I always say, we love the Wayne Gretzky quote of you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Everyone, especially around my age group, had it in the hallways at school, like it was on your whiteboard. But it is so true. And so for someone who's releasing their second single ever, they've never had any coverage, and they say, I want to be on CBCQ. I'm going to send it to CBCQ. Of course I am. CBCQ is interviewing Adele, right? They're doing really, really big things. And they're sometimes, putting on indie artists, but am I going to send it and take that shot? Absolutely. So back to the question of, how do you mark a successful campaign? It really is up to where the artist is in their career, and also expectation. what they come in with. If they call me and say, Kari, I expect to be in Exclaim and on CBCQ and on, all these different places. Sometimes that's not totally realistic. So managing expectations before is going to set us up for success during and after the campaign.
The music business has changed quite a bit in a short amount of time. There's a lot more songs being made, I guess, because you can do it at home and get a very professional sound. But at the same time, there's a lot more places that music can go. It used to be it was just radio stations and occasionally it would film and television. And then it was video games. Now it's TikTok and there's Spotify and streaming services. Has it made your job easier or harder? How's you seen how's it changed?
That's a great question. I would say it's harder because we're really trying to cut through the noise. We're really trying to work with artists and get their music to a place where, any outlet is going to accept them, or at least, spend the time listening, hopefully adding them to radio, hopefully interviewing them on the podcast, hopefully bringing them on TV to perform. But because the sort of barriers to access, the ability to record anything from home, which our artists do. There's so much more music out there. And one of the problems with that is the publications and some of the mechanisms and places that exist for music to go are so highly coveted for artists, but don't make that much of a difference. And so I think in a way, it's harder now because, yes, there are more places to put music, but because there's so much more noise and so much more, I guess, of an unrealistic understanding or expectation of what your music can do and how quickly, that sort of complicates things for people in my position.
How long does it take to get response in your experience? I know, again, it's hard, depends, but...
Well, I'll use examples. We did a pitch last week and I had the Calgary Herald back on it the same day. And I did a pitch that I got the response about February 15th and it went out in October. So it really depends. Now, remember, October specifically was this sort of honeymoon phase of the pandemic where things were opening and you could book your shows and you could get a tour back in order and all of that. So the bombardment that happened with the media at that time doesn't necessarily explain that long of a sort of response window, but it was such an overwhelming time for the media. I'm sure you guys had more pitches than ever. TV was saying we just can't keep up. We can't get through all of them. So the window really, really depends. Obviously, if, Paul McCartney were to be on my roster tomorrow, I think I would get an immediate response. But it depends on the artist. It depends on what's going on. Look, here's, to be frank and honest, this is wartime. There's a war going on in the world right now. So people who might have been interested in Jane Doe's song might be less likely is not the right way to say it. They don't have the airtime. Newspapers aren't necessarily going to print as much about music. Juno nominations came out today. Let's see how long the Junos sort of excitement lasts, because there's a war that is intensifying that the media is focused on, as they should be. And so there's less space. So all that to say, it can really vary. Every answer is, it depends, but it really does vary. The biggest artist in the world is going to get responded to very quickly. Huge news about an artist will be responded to very quickly. Local artists can expect a quicker response from their local media. And then sometimes you throw a pandemic in and you just have to wait, 4 or 5 months for a response.
It is always unpredictable. A friend of mine who sort of does somewhat of the same thing told me about back in the day. She had this huge press conference and had all the media coming up, and it was going to be really huge, and everyone, she confirmed, everyone was going to be packed. And then about 2 hours before the press conference, there was a huge bomb threat. down in like one of the big, like Toronto City Hall, and of course, no one showed up to her press conference. You know, it was
Exactly.
just totally random.
Exactly.
So, now, realizing that you don't want to be too specific, but can you give our listeners a range about how much engaging a publicity person would cost? You know, just it can be a very broad range, just to
Yeah.
give someone an idea.
Absolutely. So it's going to depend on the publicist, how long they've been around, who they work with, things like that. And also for us, and I think for a lot of Canadian publicists, although I don't want to speak for all of them, we offer campaign types. So our prices vary per campaign: a single campaign, a single and video campaign, an EP or an album campaign, or a long lead campaign, a tour campaign. So we charge a different amount for all of them. I would say to expect within the $1,000 to $2,000 range ish, depending on the publicity company. 1,000 ish is going to be the low end. Some people will charge 16, 17, 1,800 a month. It really just depends on the publicist and what they're going to be doing for you, for how long also. So I would ballpark a minimum of about 1,000.
1,000 a month, do you think, or 1,000?
Yeah, 1,000-ish a month.
Right.
Ish. Yeah.
So you really definitely want to have something to sell, and basically have all your other sort of ducks in a row before you engage someone like you.
100%. It's an investment for sure. Luckily in Canada, we have so many opportunities for funding for artists, which is great for them because, of course, the cost of just creating music is quite expensive. And then in order to get it out there into the world, to distribute it, if you want to bring on a radio tracker or a publicist or a digital marketer, there are so many expenses to getting your music out. So I would say, you should ballpark a monthly fee of about 1,000.
Well, that's great. So how can people get more information about you?
Great question. You can visit badparade.com and send us an email to book a consultation. We'll listen to your music. We'll tell you if we think we can work with it, and we'll go from there.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. I'm glad we finally had someone on to explain what you do, because it's so important, and it does sound expensive, but if you're serious about your music career, this is what you got to do to stand out.
Expensive, is it worth it? And for a lot of people,
that's true.
It clearly is.
Considering all the money we waste on guitars, it's well worth it.
Exactly.
Well, that is all the time we have today on Song Talk Radio, and that's what the band is indicating. Don't forget, we want to hear from you, so send us your comments on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. If you happen to be listening to us on the podcast stream, why not check out the YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes now that we're all in these little boxes. And if you're on YouTube, you already should have subscribed. And don't forget to subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at songtalk.ca as well. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned here on the show on the resources page. And wherever you happen to be in the world, you can join us on Zoom for the next Song Talk meetup. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. But most of all, we'd like to hear from you, and we'd like to thank you, the home listener, for joining us. You can follow Neil at
neilmodi.com.
And how about you, Michael?
neilmodi.com.
All right.
No, Profit 420 on Instagram.
Maybe just hacked my site and I didn't know about it.
Hey, Kari, just one last time, how do people get in touch with you?
You can visit our website at www.badparade.com or find us on Instagram at badparadeco.
That's awesome. And don't forget to stop by the website at songtalk.ca to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Stay safe, everyone, and keep on writing.
Keep on writing.
I have my stuff. I'm very excited.
Yay.